What is up, YouTube? This is Rob from RP Model Railroads, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the Ephrata Valley Railroad 4x8 layout project, and specifically how it relates to my original 4x4 Ephrata Valley Railroad. So I'm sure you guys will remember from a previous video when I first introduced the 4x8 layout project that I was pretty sure that I was going to be keeping the original Ephrata Valley Railroad 4x4 layout that is actually 6+ years old. I put a lot of time and memories, photos, and videos into this layout, and I planned on keeping it mainly for nostalgia's sake, to run HO trains on every now and then, and so that I could add new buildings, industries, scenery, etc. to the 4x8 Ephrata Valley Railroad main line, as I kind of called it, while keeping the original 4x4 layout intact. I actually made a decision today that's going to change the future of both layouts, and that is to do the best of both worlds. Considering that this original 4x4 layout has got so much time invested into it, buildings, scenery, etc., I'm going to pull some of my favorite buildings, all of the scenery that I possibly can pull from the layout, including trees, etc., vehicles, and small things like telephone poles, etc., and put them into the new 4x8 Ephrata Valley Railroad. Now, it may sound strange that I actually want to essentially dismantle my original 4x4 Ephrata Valley Railroad layout. But really, in the long run, as I got down to thinking about it, having two HO scale layouts to run my custom Ephrata Valley trains on, as well as those made by my friend Aaron, and of course, some of my regular HO scale locomotives, produced from factory, other railroads that I have in my collection that I like to run every now and then, having two layouts for the same purpose really doesn't make any sense in the long run, because especially when it comes down to the 4x8 layout, I know I'm going to have tons of fun with this layout, operating locomotives in the engine yard, and switching trains onto sidings, etc. Not to mention the fact that it is a 4x8, it gives me a ton more space on the layout itself for buildings and etc. So, ultimately, I think I made a pretty good decision to take the best of the 4x4 layout, the buildings, the vehicles, scenery, etc., and put them onto the 4x8 layout. So, what exactly does this mean? Well, this means that the Ephrata Valley Railroad is now going to be a 4x8 layout. So the town of Ephrata, as you can see here, I moved a lot of my favorite buildings over, including the Good Shepherd Church, an old lifelike kit that I put together years ago, the Ephrata Fire Department, and then, of course, some of my favorite two-story houses back there, or I should say actually more like three-story houses, the Steve's Hotel Railroad Building, the original Schuylkill Valley Station, and what I called Nazareth Crossing, or really the passenger station. They'll now be one building, which makes a lot more sense, and I believe how those buildings were actually marketed anyway. The Ephrata Hole-in-One Donut Shop, etc. And the gas station as well as some other buildings over here. I have the RWP Building Supply Company, the Ephrata Coal Company, and the rebuilt West Norton Junction building, the Southern Oil Company back there in the corner. And then over here, I still have the Ephrata Quarry. I actually just refinished adding this scene from the old 4x4 layout to this one. So basically, I've taken over almost all of the buildings into the brand new town of Ephrata on the 4x8 layout. The remaining buildings that I'm not going to be using on the new Ephrata Valley Railroad 4x8 layout here are definitely going to be sold, and I'm sure they'll go to great homes where they'll get another chance on life. I'm sure they've seen many layouts over the years since they've been built and put together. And that being the building specifically that I'm referring to. As far as trees are concerned, I know a long time ago I talked about changing trees on the original 4x4 layout. On this layout, I'm still going to be keeping the autumn theme. That much is going to stay. I may keep some of the autumn trees from the Ephrata Valley Railroad, the original layout, although some of them that I built myself from Woodland Scenic's lichen, I used hot glue, and that wasn't necessarily the smartest decision, so they weren't put together very well. But I'll see everything that I can salvage from the original layout to put into this one, and the fact that I'll be able to have a much larger and hopefully more realistic small town of Ephrata is just fantastic, in addition to having a much larger layout and a lot more space to add fine details, which I can't wait to do with this 4x8 layout. Well, I hope you guys are just as excited as I am to keep working on this Ephrata Valley Railroad 4x8 layout. And I hope to continue to pull things off the original layout to further furnish the new town of Ephrata and the new layout as well. But that is basically a wrap for this video, so thank you all for watching, and stay tuned for more Ephrata Valley Railroad and other train videos.